Owen McKendry here for Eat Sleep Boxing Repeat. Delighted to be joined by 3-0 super middleweight Brad Goldsmith. Brad, how are you?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Thanks for having me on, first of all.
No dramas at all, mate. Thank you for coming on. So just to get started, how's camp going for the next fight?
Very well, mate. To be fair, very well. It's just shy of 6 weeks. 6 weeks Saturday. So things will pick up now. I'll have a heavy 4 or 5 weeks, and then obviously fight week taper down. Just loosen off, keep active. Excuse me. Keep active and just prepare for obviously the fight.
Yeah. How does it work when you're early on in your pro career? In terms of, do you find the opponent out at the start of camp, or is it as you're progressing, the opponent sort of gets revealed closer to fight night itself?
Well, to be fair, mate, I mean, usually you're supposed to say once you agree to a fight, obviously, say if it's, so I found out about this when it was about 8 weeks away, and the person will say, like, between my manager and the matchmaker for the show, they'll start looking for an opponent for me. But in the past, mate, in the past, they've done that, and then things have changed last minute. So my previous 2 fights, the people who have actually boxed, they've both been late replacements.
Right.
With my second fight, the bloke actually come in on the day before, so I actually had to weigh in on the day, and then on the one just gone, so the one my most recent one, sorry, that was the same. Had someone planned, if 2, 3, 4 weeks prior, and then literally during the fight week, that fight fell through, and then Lewis Van Pooch filled the spot, I think, on the Wednesday or Thursday. So it was very last minute, really. Yeah. I mean, in an ideal world, you get your fight day, you get your opponent, and that's it, and you just train. But what I'm obviously finding is the game's just full of surprises.
Yeah. So before we sort of go into the pro ranks, amateur background, I know you've had sort of 84, 85-ish fights, over 60 wins. 2 times national champ and an English champion as well. How's that prepared you for the pro ranks?
Do you know what it is? It just puts me in bed and just gives me that early kickstart, if that makes sense. So I'm already used to obviously fighting around the country. Sorry, all down the country, different, position, different ways, standards. So when it's now obviously, there's obviously that I've had to live professional, just like the longer rounds, So like, for example, my next fight is going to be my first 6-rounder.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the amateurs, you never do any more than 3 minutes, So that's something new that I haven't experienced in like the actual fighting sense, but I've obviously had numerous rounds in the gym and stuff like that. So,
yeah. How we've going into sort of like the pro ranks now, obviously 3-0 so far. One of your second win, the knockout against a fighter, who's been in with Shakan Pitters, Hosea Burton, Lennox Clark, Charlie Schofield. You actually stopped him, and those names took him the distance. How does that change your mentality, or does that just give you that sort of success that other boxers around the weight haven't necessarily had? Does that change your mentality, or does it just increase that hunger?
I suppose it probably gives you that bit of confidence, and that bit more of like of achievement, really. Like you said, there's some very big and well-known names that you just mentioned then that took him the distance, And for me, it was just a job that I had to do on the night.
Yeah.
I was happy and I was glad that I got the stoppage with quick succession. Really, the first round's always warming up, and obviously with the 4 rounders, you don't have that much time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, once I smelt a bit of blood, mate, that's when I pounced and obviously got him out of there. So, but going back to what you just said, I don't look into it too much because in my head, that's just what I'm supposed to do. Obviously get the win, and the stoppage is obviously a bonus, and that night I got a bonus. So
Yeah.
that's how I see it.
Yeah. So obviously moved up to Sheffield, joined the famous Engle gym. Training, living almost in a sense with the likes of Kid Galahad, Cal Brook, even on the sort of the domestic scene, Bradley Skeet. How is the relationship with those fighters? How's that sort of helped you with your move into the pro ranks?
It's quite mad, really. I mean, like growing up, like I watched the likes of Brad.
Yeah.
Obviously, watched Kel. Didn't watch so much of Barry just purely because of the fact he weren't around my weight, or what I boxed at. So to now actually say that I'm training with them, and I'd class myself as being friends with them now. I actually live. Since being in Sheffield, I've lived next door to Barry, so it's just seeing what they're like and seeing what world-class fighters are like. That's only putting like a good stamp on my name, kind of thing. It's all that gives me the mental edge and the mental experience that, say, other boxers with my level of experience on paper, they're not getting at the ordinary gym. And you just mentioned Bradley Skeet. Then I'll never forget. I think he said when he was training with us, I'm at a world-class gym with a world-class coach, surrounded by world-class fighters. So to me, I'm only going one way, and that's eventually to become world-class.
Yeah. So like, as we previously mentioned with the Alvis Doob fight, and the names that I took in the distance, did they have any sort of, obviously when you're going into that, does it help being surrounded by, like you say, those world-class fighters that can sort of say their advice when it comes to obviously someone that's a tough fighter? Because obviously journeymen, from my point of view, I think journeymen get a lot of disrespect.
Previously, being around these guys and being able to get the mental experience that other people say wouldn't get, that puts me in good stead. And so now when it comes to me being in the gym and me seeing how these world-class fighters train, that to me, it helps me, without them even knowing, really. It's hard to explain, but it's very beneficial for me, mate. That's all I can say. I'll happily say I'm very mentally strong.
Yeah.
My mindset's in the right place at the right time. I'm maturing probably beyond my years, really. But that's what plays the playing factor in my career, kind of thing.
I mean, from your professional debut, I saw reviews of the actual fight, and everything I was reading, they were all saying, coming from the gym, people within the game sort of saying they haven't really seen support like it for a pro debut. The amount of people that travelled up to support yourself. How does that sort of like aid with the hunger to know that you've got such a growing fan base?
It's that's what gives you, so when people say why, I've got that many people who truly believe in me and are truly that committed to my career. If I don't perform, or if I don't train as hard as what I should be doing in training and stuff like that, then that's just me disrespecting them. Going back to my debut, it was just shy of 400 tickets, and I probably could have done more, but that was all I was generally allowed. And it was the same for my second and third fight. For my second fight, I had less than 2 weeks' notice, really, to get tickets out and and to be able to ask people to come. And I still did, I think it was, just shy of 200 tickets in that short space of time. And then for my third fight, it was only, I think it was a 500-600 seater, and I did just shy of 300 tickets. So I said it previously on one of my posts. I truly believe I've got one of the best growing support fan bases in the country. And if I'm doing these kind of numbers now, for my first 6 rounder coming up, I did 250 tickets in less than 2 days. So could you imagine what it will be like when I'm fighting for my first title?
Yeah.
And that's not coming from like a cocky point of view. I'm just that confident that I'm going to bring my city with me, and I'm going to be known as a superstar from Coventry, and I'm going to have an army of people behind me that are truly invested, and and are more than behind me, and they'll support me wherever I'm at.
Do you think it helps with, obviously, Coventry isn't the most well-known city for boxing? Do you think it helps that we've got a mass number of amateurs such as like Aaron Bowen, Dewey Malone coming through doing similar to what you've done in the amateur ranks? Do you think it helps when we've got people like Dylan Chima going and winning the lightweight tournament for the boxer tournament in the Sky Dome? Do you think that will help for yourself as well? Because obviously he's a Coventry fighter, put us on the map that little bit more on the pedestal with that boxer tournament win. Do you think that will help yourself as well in terms of like people knowing who like these Coventry fighters are?
100%, because as soon as these big shows start coming back to Coventry more often, you see it firsthand with the football. As soon as City started to do well in the football, the season tickets were selling out. People were struggling to buy tickets just to get in to watch the match. We are a city that really gets behind something that people are passionate about. And so like you just said then about Dylan winning the Boxer Series tournament, that's like a spring in a lot of people's step who, maybe aren't interested in the football, but they probably are deep down, like a boxing fan.
Yeah.
But they don't really know anyone personally who they can go support, and they don't want to, and you'll probably find they wouldn't want to spend their money going to watch someone who they don't know or have like a connection with. So what you'll probably find is now that there's a bit of like a starlight on, back on Coventry, before you know it, it will just be booming again. I mean, it's been some years since there's been, big time boxing in Coventry. And while I say that, I have visions of myself of headlining venues in Coventry, whether that be in the Sky Dome, the Cov Building Society Arena. Obviously, I'd like to say Rico, but that's what it's not called that anymore. I've got visions of headlining in venues like that, because I want to bring something back to my city that people can get up and get excited about.
So obviously every fighter, like you say, will have the visions in their home city, selling arenas out. When you're in like the Engle gym, do you set out a plan towards the first title? So is there like your first title that you'll aim for? And obviously as each of your development fights, so to speak, at the moment, are they aiming towards one specific title, or is it as you progress, it's what sort of comes available at the time?
Yeah, I'd say it's down to how I'm progressing and what comes up at the time. So if I know, because of, I don't know, so call it the British title, for example.
Yeah.
So you've got a holder, then you've got a mandatory, and then there's going to be quite a few more people that are going to be in line to fight for that, unless I get a lucky, unless I pull the lucky straw out of the pot.
Yeah.
So rather than say waiting to go straight for the British, if I can pick up a Midland area or an English title even, then I would happily do that first, you know. And I think if I was to do it that way, and I started from, say, a Midlands area, I would happily then work my way up and work my way through every single title, you know, rather than say just having a British and then getting like an intercontinental title, you know, from a specific organisation, body or whatever. But I think for me, it's just A, where I'm at the time, and B, what's available.
Yeah. Then finally, we'll go for the all important question. That we sort of have to ask: career goals. I know we've touched on the selling out sort of arenas, but sort of what would your main sort of career goals be?
I mean, this is obviously going to sound cliche, because I'm pretty sure that every box, you know, if every boxer said that they didn't want a world title, I think they'd be lying. So if you were to ask me that question and say excluding being a world champion,
Yeah.
I would obviously, of course, say I'd love to headline. Sorry, I will headline doing a big show in Coventry at a sold out packed arena. And a key thing for me is, and I say this to people on a personal level as well, throughout my career, and when it comes to me finishing, as long as I'm successful and happy, then happy days, you know, because you see it all the time, didn't you? You know, people, you know, becoming world champion, becoming financially free, but they're not happy, you know. Whereas if I can finish successful, i.e., you know, titles, world title, headlining, in my home city, and I'm happy within myself and what I've achieved and all the rest of it, then that's more than enough for me, you know.
Perfect. Brad, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck on July the 2nd in Solihull, and hopefully we'll see you go 4-0.
Thank you very much, mate. I'll speak to you soon.